is pretty famous as VBOC, Web-Based One Customs. And he's also an honorary expert on taxation for the Federation Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He has formulated tax proposal for customs, sales tax, and federal excise for the year 2020 and 21 budget, and presented them before the FBR, Finance Ministry, and Commerce Ministers. He is also a member of APCCI's FBR committee. Mr. Tanveer, I would be requesting him later on to share his extensive knowledge on how business should work against corruption in all its forms, and including extortion and bribery, etc., etc. Our second panelist is Mr. Mirza Shahid Beg Sahab. He is Executive Director of Legal Aid Center. Mr. Shahid Beg Sahab is a highly skilled and dedicated professional with a deep-rooted passion for the maritime industry, with a keen eye for identifying corrupt practices. His primary goal is to ensure fair and ethical operation within the industry. Armed with extensive knowledge and experience, he has actively worked towards uncovering and addressing areas of corruption, ultimately striving to foster transparency and accountability. Mr. Shahid will be graciously sharing his extensive knowledge on how business should work against corruption in all its forms, including extortion and bribery, etc., etc. Our third, last but not the least, our panelist is Mr. Kashif Ali Sheikh. He is currently acting executive director of Transparency International. He is a budding policy analyst and governance expert. He is currently working, as I mentioned you, executive director, acting executive director at Transparency International Pakistan to promote effective and accountable governance in Pakistan. His work is largely focused on increasing the demand and momentum for effective anti-corruption and social accountability reform at national level among key anti-corruption stakeholders for addressing priority areas in national integrity system. Prior to that, Kashif Ali Saab was a recipient of prestigious DAAD Scholar Award 2014 for Public Policy and Governance. And besides it all three, we have our one more panelist, Ms. Samreen Sheikh. She is doing her master of philosophy from University of Karachi, and she is working as looking after the marketing area of Global Compact Network Pakistan, and she is manager marketing of UNGCP, and she is was good support to us in this area. So I have requested Samreen Sheikh to be part of the webinar, so maybe she can also raising some question here and there from the panelists, and maybe our participant would be asking some questions. Maybe she is going to help us out over there as well. So we are going to start from Tanveer Ahmed Saab. So Tanveer Saab, please, would you like to share your viewpoint on anti-corruption issues and how the things should be moving in the what direction, and what are the main causes and excuse me, and consequences of corruption, and why it is important to address this issue. So Tanveer Saab, please, over to you now.
Thank you very much. So I would just like to introduce this topic. First of all, Akram Saab has already introduced United Nations Global Compact Network, and
Tanveer Saab, we cannot hear you. Tanveer Saab, sorry, we are unable to hear you. Tanveer Saab. Okay, moving forward. Yes, please go ahead.
Zainab, check karein. There is some problem with this link.
So how about asking Mr. Mirza Shahid Beg Sahab to come in, and what do you think? We should be continuing, right? Or Shahid Beg Sahab, are you there?
We may wait for minutes or 2 minutes after Tanvir Sahab.
देख लेते हैं सब, देख लेते हैं जी। तो वो उनके साथ प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है कभी कभी। Samreed, any luck?
Yes, sir, not yet. We are trying.
Okay.
Call करूं? So I guess we should resume.
ये प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं।
Sir, your mic is off.
Okay. Mirza Sahab, Shahid Sahab, please.
जी मैं करता हूँ, मैं कर लेता हूँ। I will.
आप start करें kindly. So just we need to understand that.
Is there any hope of Tanvir Sahab?
Not yet, sir. We are trying.
Not yet.
सर आप दोबारा ज्वाइन करें।
सर आने दें, उनको ज्वाइन कर दें, जब ज्वाइन कर लेंगे we'll talk to him then.
Okay, okay.
आप please start करें।
जी ठीक। Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Mirza Shahid Beg and I'm here today to discuss the issue of corruption. Its different forms and how
आप दोबारा लिंक ज्वाइन करें।
समरीन अपना माइक बंद करें, आवाज बैकग्राउंड में आवाज आ रही है। समरीन अपना माइक बंद करें प्लीज।
and how it affects business and harms the country's economy. What will our role be in establishing a fair and honest system free from corrupt practices? We all are aware of the fact that Pakistan in 2018 ranked 117 out of 180 on the Corruption Perception Index. But over the years, it has slipped to reach 140 in 2021 and remained on the same rank. At the time of partition of Indo-Pakistan, Pakistan inherited a weak economy, inexperienced politicians, but well-experienced civil servants. Civil servants filled the vacuum created due to the lack of experienced politicians and took over governance of the country, running ministries, even assuming the post of Prime Minister, Governor General, and President. The British tradition, pervasive, intrusive, extractive, and privileged government was maintained. On independence, the vacuum property distribution created several opportunities for corruption. And in the following 2 decades, corruption was facilitated by over-regulated industrialization policies. Corruption is cancer that eats away at the very fabric of society, hindering progress, undetermining trust, and impeding economic growth. In our industry and business, corruption not only undermines fair competition, but also poses a significant threat to the safety and security of our economic zone. It is imperative that we address this issue head-on and develop an anti-corruption strategy to ensure a transparent and accountable industry and business sector. One of the most common practices in the industry and business is bribery. It is an unfortunate reality that some officials, both within the government and in private sector demand bribes in exchange for favorable treatment or bypassing of regulations. This not only compromises the integrity of the industry but also hampers fair competition and impedes the growth of legitimate business. Another prevalent corrupt practice is smuggling. Corrupt officials often collude with criminal networks, turning a blind eye to illegal activities in exchange for financial gain. This not only poses a threat to national security but also undermines the rule of law. Furthermore, nepotism, favoritism, and deeply rooted in the industry and business of Pakistan. Jobs and promotions are often awarded not based on merit or qualifications, but rather on personal connections or bribes. This results in an inefficient workforce, compromised safety standards, and lack of professionalism within this sector. Moreover, misappropriation of fund is another significant corrupt practice in our economic sector. Financial resources allocated for infrastructure development, maintenance, and equipment upgrades often end up in the pockets of the corrupt officials. This leads to inadequate government facilities, outdated technology, and an overall decline in the industry and competitiveness. To combat these corrupt practices, it is crucial to focus on several key areas. First and foremost, there must be a strong commitment from the government to promote transparency and accountability within every sector of economy. This can be achieved through the implementation of fair and clear anti-corruption laws, the establishment of an independent regulatory body, and the enforcement of strict penalties for those involved in corrupt activities. Secondly, there needs to be a concerted efforts to raise awareness and promote a culture of integrity among all stakeholders in the industry and business. This can be achieved through training programs, workshops, and the dissemination and information of ethical practices. Additionally, leveraging technology and digitalization can play a crucial role in minimizing corrupt practices. Implementing transparent online system for licensing, documentation, and custom procedures can significantly reduce opportunities for corruption and streamline processes. To combat corruption effectively, we need a multifaceted approach that includes both preventive and punitive measures. Let us discuss preventive measures which are aimed and minimized opportunities for corruption to occur. Our crucial aspect is promoting transparency and accountability in all areas of life. This can be achieved by implementing strict laws and regulations along with robust oversight mischiefs. First and foremost, it is essential to enact comprehensive legislation that especially targets corruption in the industry and business. This legislation should define corruption offenses, including bribery, embezzlement, fraud, and abuse of power, and prescribe severe penalties for those found guilty. The laws should cover all stakeholders, including government officials and individuals involved. Additionally, the implementation of an effective regulatory framework is vital. This includes establishing an independent anti-corruption commission or agency tasked with investigating corruption cases and prosecuting offenders. The agency should have adequate resources, experience, and independence to carry out its mandate effectively. Furthermore, mechanisms such as whistleblower protection should be in place to encourage individuals to come forward with information about corrupt practices without fear of reprisal. Another critical aspect of the anti-corruption strategy is the promotion of integrity and ethical behavior in the country. This can be achieved through education and training programs that raise awareness but the negative consequences of the corruption and promote the culture of honesty, fairness, and compliance with ethical standards. The training should target all stakeholders, including professionals and government officers.
Hmm.
In addition to preventive measures, we must also ensure that there are severe consequences for those engaged in corrupt practices. Prosecution and punishment of offenders send a strong message that corruption will not be tolerated. To achieve this, it is crucial to strengthen the judicial system, particularly by establishing specialized anti-corruption courts to expedite corruption cases. These courts should be staffed with competent judges and prosecutors with experienced with experience in handling complaints of corruption cases. Moreover, we need to enhance international cooperation in the fight against corruption. In private and public sector. This includes sharing international information, best practices, and experiences with other countries to learn from their success and challenges. Collectively, efforts can also be made to investigate cross-border corruption cases. Lastly, public participation and engagement area essential components of any successful anti-corruption strategy. We must encourage and empower civil society organizations and media and citizens to play an active role in exposing corrupt practices. This involvement can act as a powerful deterrent and provide valuable inputs in identifying corruption, hotspots, and systematic weaknesses. Here I will like to point out some key laws related to corruption in Pakistan. First is the Prevention of Corruption Act 1947. This is the primary legislation governing corruption in Pakistan. It criminalizes various corrupt practices, including bribery, embezzlement, abuse of power, and illicit enrichment. The second one is the Federal Investigation Agency, FIA Act 1974. The FIA is responsible for investigating and preventing federal level crimes, including corruption and financial fraud. The FIA Act empowers the agency to probe and take action against corrupt individuals and organizations. Third law is the National Accountability Ordinance, NAP, 1999. This law established the National Accountability Bureau, NAB, in Pakistan and provides a comprehensive framework for investigating and prosecuting corruption cases. It empowers the NAB to investigate and take action against individuals involved in corruption, money laundering, and other white-collar crimes. The other act is the Anti-Corruption Establishment Act. Various provinces in Pakistan have their own legislation to control corruption at the provincial level. For example, the Punjab Anti-Corruption Establishment Act 2019 and the Sindh Anti-Corruption Establishment Act 2014 outline the powers and procedures for anti-corruption agencies in their respective provinces. Anti-Money Laundering Act 2010. This act provides a legal framework for combating money laundering and terrorism financing in Pakistan. It sets out obligation for financial institutions and other entities to implement preventive measures, report suspicious transactions, and cooperate with law enforcement agencies. Whistleblower Protection and Vigilance Commissions. These Whistleblower Protection and Vigilance Commissions Act 2017 provides protection to individuals who report corruption or wrongdoing. It establishes commissions at the federal and provincial level to handle complaints and safeguard the right of the whistleblower. Code of Criminal Procedure 1898. This code outlines the general procedure for the investigations, arrest, and trial of criminal offenses, including corruption cases. It defines the powers and responsibilities of the law enforcement agencies, courts, and other relevant authorities. There are a number of weaknesses within the overall anti-corruption legal and institutional framework. The current anti-corruption structure is the result of decisions taken on the basis of exigencies rather than considered policy making. Therefore, it is riddled with issues of unsustainable overlap and inconsequences, particularly between NAB and FIA. This system is entirely enforcement forced. No agency has responsibility for anti-corruption awareness and prevention. FIA has had a poor record of anti-corruption. Its conviction rate in corruption and economic crime together is not more than 28%. There is a general absence of skills at the right level in the right areas of expertise. There is no centralized source of training and upgrade these skills. Sadly, corruption has become a disease in affecting every aspect of life, including industry and business. Corruption is not defined within the borders of Pakistan. It cannot be tackled effectively without such much better international instruments for doing so. Now, I would like to share my vision for the future. There is a need for reform in income tax, sales tax, and customs. Need for reorganization of administration and government departments to eliminate corrupt practices. Need to clear import tariff policy of Pakistan. Need for computerization of imposition of tax laws, rules, and procedures. Need to simplify and standardized process system. Need that forms should be clear and without any confusion. Records should be computerized. One window operation or autonomous should be ensured with standardization and transparency, as lack of standardization provides opportunities for discretion. Discretionary power should be withdrawn from government departments. Implement a comprehensive anti-bribery and corrupt compliance program across the business. Electronic clearance system should be introduced. this is I want to share with you, and thank you very much.
Oh, great, sir. Sir, I will definitely come to you कि आपने तो बहुत एक बड़ा एरिया कवर कर लिया इसमें गवर्नमेंट जुडिशरी एंड सोशल सोसाइटी को you have included in that, and in last you have also given your recommendation. What sort of reforms?
I have tried to cover all the areas of business and industry,
इसके बाद में
and the government departments dealing with the business and industry.
Very good. Yeah, well, that shows your
Thank you.
expertise, level of expertise.
Thank you very much.
By the way, for all the participants, Mirza Sahab मेरे उस्ताद भी हैं, माशाल्लाह से, and he has taught me the industrial law way back in 1992. So ये मेरे उस्ताद मुहतरम भी हैं, माशाल्लाह से.
At that time, I was the director NILAT.
Yes, sir. Shahid Sahab, I'll come back to you. सिर्फ एक स्पेशल क्वेश्चन मैं डेफिनेटली करूंगा आपसे.
जरूर.
I would like you to enlighten us how the civil society organizations, I'm talking about the civil society organization and the private sector can play to fight corruption or anti-corruption के हवाले से. तो आप सर जरा इसके बाद बताइएगा मुझे. अभी मैं जरा पहले तनवीर साहब के पास जा रहा हूँ.
करके फिर इंशाल्लाह मैं I will
definitely I will. क्वेश्चन आपको मैंने ये सवाल वो कर दिया है.
I understand.
जब मैं आपका
the role of civil society is very important. No doubt. The role is very important.
आपका स्टूडेंट था तो आपने मुझे कभी सवाल डिस्क्लोज नहीं किया इम्तिहान से पहले. मैं कर रहा हूँ सर. So let me go back to Tanveer Sahab, sir. Tanveer Sahab, you ready now? Tanveer Sahab.
Yes. There was something missing.
Perfectly all right. Now we were waiting for you now. Please go ahead. Now you start. You must have heard हमारे शाहिद साहब को आपने सुन लिया.
Thank you very much.
जी. Tanveer Sahab, please go ahead. It's over to you.
Yes, I have heard and covered all the aspects and touched all. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So Akram Sahab, can you hear me now? Yes, Akram Sahab, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes,
okay.
Sir. You are loud and clear.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay. So Shahid Sahab has touched almost all the subjects and covered a number of areas. So I would like to be very precise and just give my observation now. First of all, the United Nations Global Compact, it urges companies to follow 10 principles, including anti-corruption. And basically what it says that businesses should work against corruption in all its forms, including extortion and bribery. So basically, in business context, the causes in third world countries, especially as already discussed, we have, there is no doubt that there are laws, but these are excessive regulations, very complicated tax laws and systems, permission and licensing system, numerous government departments with opaque bureaucracy and discretionary powers. There are so much discretionary powers which are making them so powerful. And then people are forced to give some, call it bribery, paid money, just to, even in legal cases, just to expedite their cases. And in other cases, there is a monopoly of government-controlled institutions on goods and services. You can always recall that 2-3 decades back, it was a very hard task to get a telephone connection when it was under the government control. But after it was privatized, you can see how easier it is to get a connection. So same is the case with now with the power and gas sector. You can see a number of not only corrupt practices, corruption, but the difficulties that the common man is facing due to all this corruption. Thirdly, we have already talked about a number of legislation. Our problem, and in third world countries, is that there is a lot of legislation and laws, but we don't want to probably implement, we don't have the capacity to enforce those laws. We have talked about the FIA, we have talked about the National Accountability Bureau and its law. But as we all know that in the past, it has done a good job also. It has made many cases, but at times, and you will notice that these institutions and other institutions were just used to control the political opponents, just to make out cases. So it was politically motivated cases made out by them, though they have made very good cases also. So give the credit, but overall, the perception is not good. And Mr. Kashi was also here. And in transparency, perception about the um, um, anti-corruption is that Pakistan is 140th out of 180th nation. So there are a lot of issues. And now coming to the private sector, the private sector is also facing such issues. Personally, we know that there are many companies that don't want to indulge in such practices. And there are many multinationals who have already committed globally to combat against the anti-corruption, and they take some written contract, mention in the contract that people will not indulge in the corrupt practices, but the system is such that they are forced to pay. It is increasing the cost of doing business. They are forced to pay money. For example, I know, and it's a common practice, that they just hire agents, some consultants, some lawyers, and pay them heavy fee, including just to including indirect bribery. And the higher ups, they know it, that the fee includes such and such amount, but they are forced. Why? Because if they don't do it, it will further increase the cost of doing business. It will increase the time for their completion of the task. So indirectly, I think it's the political will, a major factor. When there will be a political will, probably we have enough legislation. We have enough. Second is the how to control the bureaucracy. And basically, there is a lack of accountability across the institutions in the public sector. And now talking about the um, private sector, that just leaving aside the multinationals who are committed to anti-corruption globally, but the local, a number of local private sector organizations, they are just forced, and probably they are also using these things to for their personal and for the company's gain. And for these anti-corruption, the consequences are that basically it's the country which suffers. It's basically the poor people which suffer. For companies, the cost of doing business is increasing. Basically, its corruption is retarding our economic growth as a country, our per capita income. There is, and then the gap between rich and poor. We have already talked about the taxation system. That taxation system is such that we have unable to transform these or to bring any changes and reforms in our systems. That's the reason that we are increasing the gap between rich and the poor. Then there is no employment on merit, so it's badly affecting the meritocracy, overall institutions, and indirectly industrialization. Same as the case, you can talk about the health sector, education sector, property sector is another major area of corruption. So payment of bribes to expedite services and these things. I visited a country, a third world country, and a young man, he said, "Sir, why should not we legalize this speed money or the bribe to expedite things?" So these were the thinking. Ultimately, it comes that we should legalize it. So I asked him, if you legalize 10 rupees, what about if someone is going to then demand 20 rupees or 30 rupees, then you are going to legalize that also because it will become illegal. So these are what Mr. Shahid Beg has also said, that we need a cultural change at the political level, at the parliament level, changes in the bureaucracy, accountability across the board, and definitely in the companies, they have also to pay certain they have to take certain actions because their reputation is definitely at risk, and their investors, their customers, their employees, the confidence and the trust, it also erodes with the corruption in the file and rank. So businesses face high ethical and business risk, and this is and has to pay potential cost when they fail to effectively combat this corruption in all its forms. So I think um, I have taken enough time, but I can say there are certain figures also
Hmm. Hmm.
that
Yeah.
there are evidence that there are studies that in some cases, many countries that lose at least $1 trillion in fraud. Corruption can cost country up to 17% of its GDP, according to UN Development Program.
Hmm.
They have done it in 2014. So, I think now I leave it to question and answer session. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanvir साहब. I would like to come back to you. मैं आपसे जो एक बड़ा important सवाल करना है. You have been the architect of VBOC, Alhamdulillah, and you have written a few books also. साहिब किताब हैं आप माशाल्लाह. मेरा आपसे एक सवाल ये होगा when I come back after काशिफ अली साहब कि how can technology and digital solution be leveraged to enhance transparency and reduce corruption in various sectors? So giving us the concept of the use of technology and combating this corrupt practices in Pakistan, whereby our number, as you mentioned, and Mirza Sahib also mentioned, 140th number out of 180. So use of technology can play a pivotal role to reduce these obstacles. So I'll come back to you on this question after Mr. Kashif Ali Sahab. So please be prepared for this question. All right. So now I will request Kashif Sahab. Kashif Sahab, you please now over to you. हमने आपको काफी देर से engage किया हुआ है. तो प्लीज आप आइए जरा हमें बताइए कि what are your views and about this whole fiasco in Pakistan. Kashif Sahab, over to you.
Ji, thank you, Akram Saab, first of all,
Yes,
for having me. I hope I'm audible,
Yes, sir, you are. Thank you very much. Yeah, you are.
First, thank you for having me. Thank you, Tanvir Saab, Mirza Shahid Saab. And I think the global network, Pakistan is doing a great work, especially आज जो आपने anti-corruption के मौजू पे ये webinar organize किया है. मेरा ख्याल है we need such sort of webinars and conversations and dialogues to sensitize the general public about the, I think, the detrimental effects of corruption. And now I think that there has a lot been said about this, and I will not take much of the time, but I think it's important to understand how do we define corruption, because a lot of the viewers of this webinar I expect would be the young people. And then for that, I think it's very important कि हम सबसे पहले तो ये define करें कि ये हम corruption को तो कहते हैं कि कैंसर है किसी society के लिए, ये corruption है क्या? और इसको किस तरह हम जो है इसकी रोकथाम के लिए क्या किया जा सकता है. और आपने बड़ा मेरा ख्याल है इंपॉर्टेंट सवाल पूछा कि सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस इसमें क्या कर सकती हैं. तो ट्रांसपेरेंसी इंटरनेशनल, द वे वी डिफाइन करप्शन is we call it corruption is the abuse of interested power for a private gain कि वो पब्लिक अथॉरिटीज जिनको अवाम के सर्विंग के लिए या पब्लिक सर्विस डिलीवरी के लिए जो भी पावर दी गई है उसका नाजायज इस्तेमाल, चाहे वो पब्लिक सेक्टर में हो चाहे वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर में हो, that would come under the ambit of corruption. Now obviously as this has been discussed, that corruption has a lot of consequences for any society. It has a consequences for economic development, it has a consequences for democracy, it has a consequences for institutions, and it has a constitutions for rule of law in the country. And it was with this vision that Transparency International was established in 1993. And the idea at that time of TI was that how do we combat corruption and put in place sustainable solutions that overcome the Can you hear me right? मुझे वो
Yeah,
मैसेज आया
yes.
था कि internet connection is unstable. Okay, I
Now,
think I'll turn off my
अब
camera.
ठीक है, please go ahead.
तो वो इसी विजन के साथ जो है ट्रांसपेरेंसी इंटरनेशनल का भी बुनियाद हुआ 1993 में जर्मनी के शहर में कि किस तरह हम जो है गवर्नमेंट्स को, बिजनेसेस को और सोसाइटीज को जो है फ्री फ्रॉम करप्शन बनाए। और अगर पिछले आप मेरा ख्याल है 3 दहाइयों में देखें तो इसके ऊपर काफी प्रोग्रेस हुई है। एट इंटरनेशनल लेवल आई थिंक वी हैव a very important instruments in place, such as the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, and that convention looks very closely at how well at the national governments are meeting their anti-corruption targets, and the convention also includes the provisions for cross-border cooperation and regional cooperation with the new threats of corruption, such as money laundering, stolen money, and the issues like that we are facing. So internationally we have the UNCAC framework available to us, and I think from the United Nations point of view also, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, is a very important I think framework for us when it comes to fighting corruption, and what the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think why it is important, you would know better than me as a global compact, is because if you look at the goal 16 of Sustainable Development Goal, the SDG 16 is sort of a cross-cutting goal. And we call it a cross-cutting goal because that puts emphasis that without fighting corruption, you will not be able to achieve no poverty. You will not be achieve zero hunger or health for all, education for all. We will not be able to overcome the issues of climate crisis. So for every social welfare issue that we are talking about, the fighting corruption is at the heart of it. And if you look at, unfortunately, in our national context, though we find that everyone talks about corruption and the importance of addressing this challenge, but unfortunately, the reality is that it does not seem to be diminishing in Pakistan. In fact, if you look at the Corruption Perception Index that is released by Transparency International every year, in 2022, our score and our ranking went from 117, 16 spots down to 140. And it's the worst ranking that we have achieved ever since in the last 2 decades since the CPI measurement tool was started by TI. Similarly, our score has dropped from 33 to 27 that we had in 2022. So that's the picture in front of us. Now I think it's also important that जो corruption है उसकी obviously there are different forms in front of us. It often comes in form of the abuse of authority. It comes often in form of embezzlement, in form of fraud, in terms of vestige of public resources. And obviously, I think as was earlier pointed out, कि हमारे पास शायद legislation का मसला नहीं है. We have very, very good legislations in place. The problem comes is the implementation. कि अगर हम anti-corruption legislation की बात करें, anti-corruption tools की बात करें, in the public sector we have very important tools available. So for example, right to information, कानून मालूमात तक रसाई के कवानीन जो है, उसका अगर आप जायजा लें तो इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में फेडरल लेवल पे और प्रोविंशियल लेवल्स पे we have excellent access to information laws available, and these laws empower citizens to obtain any sort of information from the public bodies, and they can use that information to provide an oversight to the public spending. But the problem is that the laws are in place, but the implementation is very weak. So if you look at the Sindh, the Sindh Right to Information Act 2017 was passed. Almost 6 years have passed, but the commission is not in place. We see in the instances where the public information officers have not been appointed, and same is true for across different provinces. इसी तरह अगर आप इन लॉ में देखें तो एक बहुत ही अच्छी हमारे पास यूनिक प्रोविजन है, that's what we call the proactive disclosure, कि जो पब्लिक सेक्टर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं उनके ऊपर ये लाजिम है कि वो इंफॉर्मेशन को जो है पब्लिकली डिस्क्लोज करें without any citizen going and asking for that. But we do a lot of research and advocacy work around that, and we see a very low level of compliances when it comes to proactive disclosure. इसी तरह विसल ब्लोअर प्रोटेक्शन की बात हुई, अगर आप विसल ब्लोअर प्रोटेक्शन लॉज को देखें तो हमारा जो फेडरल विसल ब्लोअर प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट है वो तो पास हो गया, मगर शायद वो विजिलेंस कमीशन अभी तक नहीं बनी. तो what we see is कि हमारे पास लेजिस्लेशन तो एक अच्छी लेजिस्लेशन बन जाती है, उसमें सिविल सोसाइटी का बड़ा रोल होता है इन पुशिंग for those legislations, but then the problem is the implementation, and that's where I think the NAB and FIA also comes in play. If you look at the prosecution, essentially our prosecutions are very weak, and whether these institutions some of the gaps areas जो हमारी research ने identify की हैं around capacity building and all that. So the first point that I want to make is around the need for the improved implementation of the anti-corruption agencies that we have and the anti-corruption frameworks that we have in place. मगर वो उसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट के लिए जो आपने मेरा ख्याल है जो शाहिद साहब से सवाल पूछा था, मैं उसमें पिच इन करना चाहूंगा कि उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन को बेहतर बनाने के लिए मेरा ख्याल है एक हम सब का बड़ा रोल है कि एक इम्प्रूव्ड डिमांड साइड उसके ऊपर हो, कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों में एक आगाही हो कि इस तरह के इंस्ट्रूमेंट एग्जिस्ट करते हैं जिसको वो यूज कर सकते हैं अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी को बेहतर बनाने के लिए. इसी तरह अगर हम बिजनेस सेक्टर की बात करें तो बिजनेस सेक्टर में जो है द रिपोर्ट्स, इफ यू लुक एट द वर्ल्ड बैंक रिपोर्ट्स, there is the cost of doing business is estimated to be at 10% in Pakistan. हमारे पास जो overall legal framework है of business sectors, उसमें जो corporate integrity जिसको हम define करते हैं जिस तरह, that is very weak. So for example, the beneficial ownership is something that we see that the companies that are being awarded big contract, either are they disclosing information of their shareholders or not. The beneficial ownership की जब implementation की बात आती है तो वो उस तरह की हमें compliance नजर नहीं आती. इसी तरह register of interest, these are some of the tools that are used at the global level to push integrity in the business sectors. और दूसरा अगर आप पब्लिक सेक्टर में देखें तो सबसे ज्यादा जो हमें ग्रैंड करप्शन या मेगा करप्शन कंसर्न्स नजर आते हैं वो पब्लिक प्रोक्योरमेंट होती है, जिसमें ज्यादातर जो है टैक्स पेयर का पैसा इस्तेमाल होता है. अब प्रोक्योरमेंट की जब बात आती है तो हमारे पास बहुत ही बेहतरीन कवानीन मौजूद हैं, फेडरल लेवल पे भी, प्रोविंशियल लेवल्स पे भी. इसको हम पिछले 20 सालों से इसके ऊपर काफी काम कर रहे हैं एक्टिवली कि पब्लिक प्रोक्योरमेंट मॉनिटरिंग. मगर इसमें आप देखें there is a hesitancy when it comes to disclosing information about at what price the contract was awarded. फॉर एग्जाम्पल हमारे प्रोक्योरमेंट कवानीन में ये मौजूद है कि प्रोक्योरिंग एजेंसी ने जो है बिल ऑफ क्वांटिटी BOQ इंफॉर्मेशन डिस्क्लोज करनी है. BOQ इंफॉर्मेशन का मतलब ये है कि अगर आपने सड़क बनानी है तो सिर्फ आपने सड़क के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की वैल्यू को पब्लिक नहीं करना है, मगर उसकी आइटमाइज्ड प्राइस जो है, किस प्राइस पे इंजीनियर कंसल्टेंट हायर हुआ, कितनी स्टील लगी उसमें, कितनी सीमेंट लगी, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. एंड दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इंफॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम ट्रांसपेरेंसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, ताकि लोगों को पता हो कि जो टैक्स पेयर का पैसा है वो किस तरीके से इस्तेमाल हो रहा है. और इसमें मेरा ख्याल है दूसरा हमें ये भी देखने की जरूरत है, जब हम एंटी करप्शन की बात करते हैं तो we cannot really come up with any viable solution without involving those people who are 60% of our population, the young people, and the involvement of young people in terms of raising their capacity, in terms of how they can participate in decision making. Policies में हमें उनके लिए provision बनाना, चाहे वो local governance की बात हो, चाहे वो provincial level की policy making हो, तो उनकी participation को यकीनी बनाना is also very important from the transparency point of view. And this is the area where we see there is a lot that needs to be done. और तीसरी मेरे ख्याल में जो बात ऐड करना चाहूंगा वो ये है कि अगर आप करप्शन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में हम बात कर रहे हैं, इस वक्त हम climate crisis की बड़ी बात हो रही है कि पाकिस्तान is in a war like situation in terms of the effects of climate change that we are facing. And if you look at चाहे वो mitigation or adaptation की जो बात होती है तो उसमें we are receiving a lot of international funding to combat to deal with these climate effects. मगर वो सारी जो एक हमारे पास climate governance framework मौजूद है उसमें there is a lot of gaps when it comes to integrity and transparency. So for example अगर आप climate governance framework को देखें तो इस वक्त 2017 का हमारे पास climate change act मौजूद है. उस एक्ट के अंदर जो है एक क्लाइमेट काउंसिल बनना है. क्लाइमेट काउंसिल का मतलब यह है कि आप प्राइवेट सेक्टर को इन्वॉल्व करें, आप सिविल सोसाइटी को इन्वॉल्व करें, आप फेडरल मिनिस्ट्रीज को इन्वॉल्व करें, प्रोविंशियल चीफ मिनिस्टर्स एंड लाइन डिपार्टमेंट्स को इन्वॉल्व करें, ताकि जो क्लाइमेट के इश्यूज हैं पाकिस्तान में उनको एक होलिस्टिक अंदाज से जो है डील किया जाए. मगर अनफॉर्चुनेटली पिछले 6 सालों में ये क्लाइमेट काउंसिल नहीं बना. तो इस तरह की जब हम जो इंक्लूसिवनेस की हम बात करते हैं, चाहे वो बिजनेस के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हो, चाहे पब्लिक सेक्टर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हो, सो द इंक्लूसिविटी हैज its role to play in terms of enhancing transparency. So these were some of the thoughts, initial thoughts, and I think I'll stop here and we'll continue the conversation as we move later. Thank you.
Fantastic, Kaiser. Really, I must appreciate your thoughtful deliberation which you pointed out here, and helped us out to understand the consequences right now we are facing. Especially, really, it is mind-boggling that our number is 140 out of 180 country. Our perception index has gone down. So I'll come back to you, Kashif Saab. Now, before I go to Mr. Shahid Beg Sahab, Kashif Sahab, we have you yourself, Tanveer Sahab and Mirza Sahab have spoken about the real sad issue of corruption in Pakistan, anti-corruption. Now, I would really request you, Kashif Sahab, if you can provide example of a successful anti-corruption initiative from maybe a country or another country other than Pakistan, or maybe you have an example from Pakistan where they were successful in providing and helping us out, helping the countries out of successful anti-corruption initiatives taken by the various in any region, in any country, or any organization in Pakistan. So I'll come back to you. So let me go back to Shahid Saab. Shahid Saab, I was requesting you to please come back and civil society. How, in your opinion, civil society and private sector can play a very important role extensively in fighting this corruption in Pakistan? So Shahid Saab, Mr. Shahid Saab, please. Over to you, sir.
The role of the civil society is very important because the fight against corruption is a long-term process requiring deep structural changes to a society, its legal features and its cultural. Therefore, civil society is an essential for controlling anti-corruption. The role of the civil society is very important. We cannot ignore civil society.
Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Tanveer Sahab, now can you come back to us, please, and let us know that how this technology can play a vital role in combating this corruption. So please let us know about your point of view, especially with respect to technology. So Tanveer Sahab, over to you now, please. Tanveer Sahab, are you there?
No, sir, I guess he is not here. But
all right. Yeah.
Sir, there is an attendee who has a question.
Okay, I've seen the question. This is regarding far-flung area which is called Chaman,
Yes.
near in Balochistan. and the gentleman is asking how they can stop corruption in the Chaman district of Balochistan, and this is a very specific and localized question. So we'll come back to on this. Now we're talking very generally. I'll request Mr. Kashif Ali Sahab
Tanveer Saab is back as well.
come back to us that with the successful anti-corruption initiative, you might like to share with our colleagues, the participants and attendees of this webinar. Kashif Sahab, over to you now.
And that I think Tanveer Saab is here, so if maybe you want to take over first, whatever.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead, please.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Please.
Now, in terms of the, I think, successful anti-corruption initiatives, I think there are many. मगर मेरा ख्याल है इसमें जो शायद मैं उसी चीज को emphasize करूंगा कि हम ज्यादा उसको एक स्टेट के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो देखते हैं करप्शन को कि चाहे वो एंटी करप्शन एजेंसीज की जो है इंडिपेंडेंस हो, चाहे वो ऑडिट इंस्टीट्यूशंस की इंडिपेंडेंस हो या उनकी कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग हो इन टर्म्स ऑफ चाहे वो एंटी करप्शन लेजिस्लेशन हो. मगर मेरा ख्याल है सक्सेसफुल इनिशिएटिव्स हमें ज्यादा उस चीज को भी हाईलाइट करना है फ्रॉम द सिटीजन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. और उसमें व्हाट वी सी इज दैट इन मेनी कंट्रीज द राइट टू इंफॉर्मेशन टूल दैट वी हैव इज वेरी प्रोएक्टिवली यूज्ड by the citizens to play their role in terms of the oversight. And I think this also addresses the question that you pointed out, that how can the young people play their role in stopping corruption? And I think the most important role that the young people in different countries are playing and they can also play in Pakistan is to practice integrity. और जब हम integrity की बात करते हैं तो उसमें हमारे पास काफी ज्यादा, so for example social accountability tools हैं. For example, the people can mobilize together and conduct citizen report card studies. The citizen report card studies are the are the tool whereby the citizens gather feedback on the quality of the service delivery. Similarly, जब हम right to information की बात करते हैं, अगर आपके एरिया में एक स्कूल है और अगर आप देखते हैं कि उस स्कूल में जो है टीचर नहीं आ रहा या बच्चे नहीं आ रहे, you can file and right to information request with the district education officer asking for that how much funds were allocated to this particular school.
Can't hear you. I think we lost the connection, Kashif Sahab. Kashif Sahab, are you there? Meanwhile, Tanveer Sahab, would you like to pitch in and let us know about the importance of technology and how this technology can help us out in combating the corruption? Tanveer Sahab, are you there?
Very much there. I'm sorry. There is something wrong that it's being disconnected. So I have
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Phone, as well as from my
internet connection.
Laptop as well as my phone, because it's creating some problem. Anyway, the digitalization basically and the it's one of the solutions, because for example I can quote you because I have made this single window and all these I was director of reform and automation in custom as well as in FBR. So there was a lot of improvement when this totally automated solutions were introduced, because there was no contact between taxpayer and tax collector. So you can just taking this model, you can introduce in other government agencies also. For example, Patwari, for example, registration of FIR. For example, I have been also associated and working with the police department. I already told them, but they have their own issues that they cannot left it open, they cannot automate it, and they need human intervention, because then the crime rate probably will be depicted very much high. So government has its own issues. Otherwise, automation will not eradicate, but definitely substantially reduce the corruption especially in public sector. So I have a first-hand knowledge about the custom department, the tax department, and one or two other departments in which we were working. So I just share one or two things that there was a department, and we were trying to take it on our overall system, and we wanted to connect them, and we wanted that their certificates should come directly. But there was so much of resistance from the lower staff that they didn't want any automation, because then all the certificates will be going, and nobody is going to come and practically taking file to them. So we have arranged computers, we have arranged training, we arranged many things, and not only one department. The department, single window of Pakistan, it's now almost 72 departments and trying to automate all their processes. It will be a great breakthrough when it will be completed, but there is a lot of resistance and changes. So what Mr. Kashif was also saying, that there is no dearth of legislation, but the issue is that of political will, and the issue is that of implementation and enforcement of these laws in letter and spirit. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Tanvir Saab. Now, luckily, before I go to Mr. Kashif Ali again. We have with us a person representing Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. He is here as a participant, attending our webinar from Denmark right now. Mr. Matthias Back. I would like to ask a question to him, that Maritime Anti-Corruption Network has been a very instrumental NGO all over the world. Currently, they are carrying the their members are carrying the 50% of the world load in the shipping industry. So Matthias Back is an associate with MSCN, and my question to Matthias Back is if he would be able to give us any successful anti-corruption initiative his organization has taken so far anywhere in the world. So over to you, Matthias Back, please.
Thank you, Eric. Good to see you. I was actually planning to just listen in to all these smart people, but since I got asked the question, I'll be happy to chip in. Yeah. So the first case that I will really put to the table is Nigeria. And in Nigeria, so we're representing the shipping industry. In Nigeria, we saw a lot of, every time a vessel, a tanker vessel or a container vessel, it entered a Nigerian port, it was faced with numerous risks of extortion and harassment, even threats of violence. The regulations were always a bit up in the air. Procedures were not really detailed, and there were some pretty inconsistent rules that in practice gave many port officials, such as the health department and the immigration department, the customs department, a lot of discretionary power that they can use to find some kind of error that they often actually invented, and then demanding a bribe. So they could threaten to arrest the ship's crew for an alleged violation, they could make this problem go away if, for instance, they paid a bribe. And what we did there was that we installed what we call a help desk. And it's been many years. We've been working on this for 10 years, so it hasn't come overnight. But it's something that we did as an industry together with the government. It's a helpline where you can call and you send a pre-arrival notification. A team consisting of the port authorities as well as private sector authorities, as well as us, the civil society. We operate this hotline 24/7. We receive these calls, receive the pre-arrival notifications, and we're ready to assist them in real time. And then we have a line into the government department that is causing the issue in question, and then we can solve that issue. And what we've seen is that we've received as of a couple of last year, I think we had 90 corruption cases raised this way, and we were able to solve around 95% of them. So in practice, when we come together, both the industry and the government and civil society, and create a joint solution that everybody actually trusts, we can really see these kinds of collaborative solution models work well. And we've seen the same in Argentina, where actually this ended up resulting in the number of bribe demands come down to, or at least that we reported, 90% of the bribe demands reduced. So we have also tried to implement this model now in India, where so far we have still a limited amount of cases, but we have 100% success rate. So we don't have a single case where this model actually didn't resolve the corruption incident in real time. And of course, this is something that we also want to see in the future in Pakistan. As you may know, we have a project in Pakistan, and all the countries I just mentioned, Nigeria, India, Argentina, these kinds of countries we've been in many years, and we only just launched our project in Pakistan this year. So it's a long journey for us, but we really hope to try to do something like this as well. And we have already taken some pretty good preliminary steps with Akram Saab here and then Tanvir Saab. So we are seeing so much better feedback also from the private sector now, and also from the government. And this is the kind of trust and collaboration that you need to operate and build this. So yes, we have a couple of successful cases of anti-corruption when we all work together.
Thank you very much, Medha. It was really very nice for you to come in and enlighten our participants of this webinar that how this technology combined together, technology and your systems combined together have been useful to fight this menace of corruption, especially in Nigeria, and now you mentioned also in India. And we thought Tanvir Saab and Mirza Shahid Beg Saab, this was Matthias from Maritime Anti-National Corruption Network from Denmark. And I think we got this right solution at the moment, that this help desk, not only related to anti-corruption in maritime, but also in the various government departments, can help us out. And it can be a very good solution of establishing the help desk. So what do you think about this this solution, Tanvir Saab and Shahid Beg Saab? Just one simple and quick comment from your side on this establishment of help desk in the various public and private sector organizations to combat this menace of corruption. So over to you, Tanvir Saab, then Mr. Shahid Beg Saab.
Well, I think we have already seen the models in India and Nigeria and working very successfully. And I have met many stakeholders in Pakistan, and they all wanted a help desk here, that someone neutrally and backed by some international organizations should be there just to approach the bureaucracy, just to approach other stakeholders. And they are already demanding that there should be a help desk in Pakistan. And there are customs agents, FTCCI, even Federation of Chamber of Commerce, the shipping agents, similarly, the stevedores, and there are other stakeholders. They all say that we need some converging point. There should be some neutral persons who should who should listen to our complaints and should take up that matter before the bureaucracy, before the government institutions. So I think help desk is a great idea, and in Pakistan it can be a success, and it's basically the demand of various stakeholders in maritime trade. Thank you.
Great, great. Mirza Shahid Saab,
Yeah.
last comment from your side.
Yeah,
The-
very, very easy, very easy solutions. We have a very strong legislative system. We have the laws. We have the administrative departments. The only thing we are facing is the enforcement of the laws. This is the only problem we have facing.
Okay. Okay. And then do you think that this help desk can help us out?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yes.
If we succeed in enforcement, we will
Yeah.
succeed and control everything.
Okay. Okay. All
The
right.
only
Great.
problem is that with enforcement.
Okay. Okay. Great. Now I received a message from Kashif Sahab. Actually, he is in Thailand and visiting his counterparts over there. He had to go for a dinner over there. So he just excused, and I said, okay, fine, go ahead. So he said, he was saying thank you to everyone. And I also, on behalf of a Global Compact Network Pakistan, would like to thank Mr. Kashif Ali Sahab, Executive Director of Transparency International Pakistan. And I would like to also thank Mr. Syed Tanveer Ahmed. He is associate law firm, tax law firm, Syed Tanveer and Associates. And I would also like to say thanks to Mr. Mirza Shahid Beg Saab, Executive Director, Legal Aid Center of Pakistan, for and also Mr. Matthias Back, who was just listening to us as a participant, but I thought it was a very good time and opportunity to engage him. So thanks to Mr. Matthias Back from MACN of Denmark and our participants who were listening to us and sending us questions, which we'd like to, which we did place here and ask a question from our worthy panelists. And we must appreciate the time you spared for this. It's a really national cause and the need of the hour to combat corruption almost in every any walk of life in Pakistan, where our number is 140th out of 118 countries. So we are depriving, we are going down, and we must be able to combat this kind of menace in all walk of life. Then I'm sure that joining together, and we will be moving against this menace in our society. Thank you very much, Mirza Sahab. Thank you very much, Tanveer Sahab. Thank you very much, Matthias Sahab. And thank you very much, Kashif Ali Sahab, for joining us, and all other participants who joined and listened to us for this webinar, and gave us their ideas and views during this webinar. So with these few words, and again saying thanks to everyone, I would like to take leave and thank you, goodbye, and hopefully we'll be meeting again, inshallah, soon. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you, Tanveer Sahab, thank you, Matthias Sahab, thank you, Shahid Sahab, and thank you, our great colleagues who were listening to us. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you very much, Akram
Thank
Sahab.
you.
Well
Thank
done.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Matthias Sahab, thank you very much.
Matthias, thank you very much
Thank you.
for all your participation.